Hi everyone, good morning. Today we're doing the show in the morning, kind of, lunchtime, better said. Hello everyone, once again, welcome to another episode of Lair. Today we're gonna have a great show for you, as usual. Easy for me to say, right? But once again, thank you for everyone, for keep sending messages every week, in every way, medium. So thank you once again. It's great to see that the channel and the project is growing, I would say very organically, which is great to see, and it was always, of course, my intention. So thank you once again. Today we have like a very hot day in London, for a change. Actually, yesterday was also very hot, so if I start sweating a bit, that's why, because it's crazy hot in this room, I have to say. And if the poster goes down, that's the reason why as well. I don't think it will, but just for you to let you know. I think yesterday was like 36 degrees or something crazy like that. Anyway, welcome once again, everyone. Let's start with the usual, of course, pandemic update. So I've been saying for the past, I think, past couple of weeks that in the UK the lockdown is getting eased more and more. At least that's the intention of the government. So there's some workplaces in which people are already welcome to go in person. Not in our industry, as far as I know, but yeah, that's happening at the moment. So people are not working every day like of the week, but some days of the week. It's something that I've been witnessing, that it's something that is happening at the moment, which is expected. Although you can argue, but is it safe? Yes, I understand. It's also my question. Is it the time at the moment? It's also my question. But the truth is, the lockdown has to end at some point. And until we have the vaccine, there will not be like 100% of certainty that it's absolutely safe, of course. And even with the vaccine, there's always a chance. But anyway, that's happening. Also, the masks. I think it was last week that they became. Yeah, it was last week they became mandatory while you're going in closed spaces, whether it's restaurants or pubs or shops, especially shops. You know, we all go to grocery to shops to buy groceries, and until now there was not a lot of people wearing masks, and now it's mandatory. But I have to say that even though I'm seeing more people wearing masks, which is a good thing, I also see, even though this is a mandatory thing, I also see a lot of people not wearing masks while in shops, which is something, as I said, that it's not happening in other countries in Europe. At least in Europe, because that's the knowledge that I have. So don't really get this attitude. At the same time, shops, as far as I know, and I also said this last week, are not pushing, necessarily speaking, for people to wear masks, meaning that they are not making, necessarily speaking, people wearing masks while they're inside the shop. For example, and I said this last week, and again, this is only as an example, Portugal, which is my country, you don't go inside the shop if you don't have a mask. That's it. If there's like a big discussion, of course, people like the security of these shops, of course, they don't have the power to oblige you like legally, but nevertheless, you not go in the shop, and if things need to be, that they will have to call the police, and police, of course, will have the power to do something about it. So here it's a bit different. I think it's too political at the moment, and the message is not super clear, because I don't think, and there was a discussion yesterday on the television, someone, I'm not sure who this person was, saying that the message is not clear in terms of, should you always wear a mask, yes or no? I also spoke with a friend of mine that is a doctor, and he says that while you're in hospital, apparently you can be exempt of using a mask if you fill a certain form that is available for everyone to download and to fill them by themselves. So I don't really understand what's going on regarding this mask thing, but that's what's happening. Of course, in the States, there's a big discussion around this as well. Anyway, Spain became blacklisted in terms of entering the UK without quarantine. So now they're also obliged to make quarantine for 14 days, as Portugal still is. My quarantine is over, by the way, and I'm okay, thankfully. So all good here. So far so good, better said this way. But so Portugal remains the same, became blacklisted. So this means that there's more flare-ups around the world, especially in Europe, and in China as well, as far as I know. So it seems really that the second wave is likely to happen. That there's some countries already defining what's going on. In terms of spikes in cases as a second wave. I think it's well, what am I to say, but I was about to say that it's a bit too soon to say whether or not this is a second wave, because we're not even in the winter time. By winter time, that's when I think we will be able to evaluate whether or not we have a second wave. But people from different countries are already considering these flare-ups as a second wave, which is not good, of course, for all the reasons. And because of that, of course, tourism is being severely affected. In my country, that is so dependent on tourism, is being severely affected. But while I was there, I've seen, to my surprise, of course, you see much less people, whether they're nationals or tourists, but I still saw some people, I mean, from other countries, I mean tourists, which is great to see. Again, there's at least visually speaking, a more cautious attitude towards what's going on. So people seem to behave a little bit different, including the tourists, despite where they came from, which is good. But yeah, tourism overall is being severely affected, as it's easy to understand why. I spoke just now about the US, about these masks thing and all that stuff, but I read, I think it was a couple of days ago, that Dr. Fauci apparently is cautiously optimistic, to quote him, about the vaccine being available by fall or winter this year. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Fauci is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases in the US, and is part of the coronavirus task force for the current administration. So I don't know exactly what cautiously optimistic means. I think he's being very careful with these words. Of course, he doesn't want to give false hopes to anyone, especially while in the country where he's at. There's so many cases every day, but it's a good thing, I would say. If he's saying that he's cautiously optimistic, that's a positive message, right? So we'll see what happens. I've been reading also that a lot of these vaccine trials and all that stuff the results are promising, which is also a good thing, but you can never tell for sure until it's available to the public. So hopefully that will happen sooner than later. I think this is moving quite fast in terms of the development of a vaccine, so we'll see what happens. And unfortunately, because of all this, and because of the changes in this country regarding the furlough scheme, actually today marks the end of the current furlough scheme in the way that it was designed to help people. So now companies are required to pay some, or to contribute with some money in terms of this help. So the government is still helping, but it's not helping in the same way. that means that a lot of companies unfortunately cannot support the number of people that they had, especially in our industry. So we see more and more people, unfortunately, to become available on LinkedIn, posting their reels and stuff like that. And I said this before, there's a green kind of icon that you can now attach to your profile picture in LinkedIn saying that you're available. I mean, does that help? I don't know, but that's what I've been seeing more and more. So it's easy to take the conclusion that people are not, or companies are not able to sustain the current number of people that they have, and I think that will continue until the end of the year. Unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong. I haven't been much wrong around this issue, unfortunately, but I want to be wrong. But we'll see what happens. But the positive message here is this will not last forever, and at the moment there's the content, there's like a valve that this pandemic thing put in all the projects and all the future projects that were already start being developed and all that stuff, and now that they cannot take off because of this situation, but it's accumulating, all these projects accumulating. So there will be a time in which there's so much work here for people to work on that probably this is one of the worst periods of our industry because of these reasons. But once this is lifted, this valve is not here anymore, maybe that will be one of the best times of our industry because there will be so much work. We'll see what happens. I hope that's the case, but that's where we're at the moment. All right, so technical highlight of the week. I've chosen something that is not necessarily new. It's not old either, but it's an article on a website of an artist called I'll try to pronounce his name correctly, Guillem Ramisa de Soto. Which is, I'm sorry, man, if you ever see this and I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, I'm sorry. But this is basically an article for those of you, especially during these times, that want to learn something new. This is an article that teaches you how to start with Blink scripting. So this is, it's in his blog, and it's called Blink Scripting 101. I'll be posting the link on, as usual, on Discord and on the comments or description of the video at some point during these next days. But yeah, that's the technical highlight of the week, and I think it's something for you to try to learn during these times, especially if you unfortunately are not working in the company. This is the time to invest in yourselves. I've been saying this for the very beginning, and this is the kind of stuff that will put you in a better position after this whole thing ends. So, have this in mind, prepare now, because this will not be like this forever. And if the more you prepare, the more you're going to be successful when the right time comes or the right opportunity comes. All right, so let's take a look at who's here with us today. Let's see. Wow, so many. What's going on? So many messages, and then they went away. Okay, let me try. Cannot read this really well. Let's see what's going on with the chat. I know what happened. Okay, so what are people saying? Hello Peter, hello everyone. Mark Meyer, hello Marco. Using a mask for like this. Let me try to get the chat back, if I can. Okay, I can't. I'm from Bangladesh. VFX industry that works at small studios, but I am trying for permits. Yeah, so these are. I cannot really read well. Unfortunately, the chat, the normal window is not working properly at the moment. I don't know exactly what's going on. That's why I have this redundancy kind of a system. I'll try to bring this back, but yeah, I from what I can understand, even though I'm not reading every single word, situation around the globe is difficult regarding VFX. And I think that's what our viewer here is saying from Bangladesh. So yeah, listen, we're all in this together, okay? So sometimes, even though that fact alone, the fact that we are in this together doesn't help anyone necessarily speaking, but it helps mentally speaking to I would say for you to not feel so alone in this situation, okay? And this will end, and this is my effort, what I'm doing here with this show, to bring everyone on board, and to at least mentally, if these shows help you at least to being entertained for the hour that the time amount that the show lasts, this is already a good thing, I would say. So anyway, I think it's time for the tech corner now. Yeah, thanks, man. Cool. All right, so the chat seems like it's back. Which is a good thing. So it's time now to go to the tech corner. So the tech corner this time, we did a tech challenge, which was something different on the past week. And I've announced that tech corner on the previous week to that. So this tech corner now is the second part, not necessarily the last, but the second part of something that was presented before, which has to do with normals manipulation. So we're gonna resume that kind of subject in this tech corner. It's gonna be a shorter one, and then we're gonna have the usual, which is our guest, and you're gonna like it. All right, so let's do the tech corner, and I'll see you in a second. We want to transform the red and green channels into something that will resemble the SD map like this. How do we do that? We need to normalize these values here, okay, the red and the green. So with an expression, we will follow this formula. So red, which is a set of values, minus the minimum, which is -1, and that will be divided by the maximum, which will be 1, minus the minimum, which will be -1. That's what we did. So from 0 to 1 on the red. The other ones will still become what they were, but we're gonna say exactly the same thing on the green. So we'll have the normalization on the red and green. So now that we have that, that means that anything that we map, taking this as our SD map, will be mapped within the sphere from top to bottom. It's not going to be around the sphere, it's going to be on the face of the sphere that we see. If I now put this image here with the UV channels set to RGB, that's it. So now I have the entire thing from this point towards this one, bottom to the top, mapped to that same sphere. So that's what we did, and we can use this to fake reflections. One thing to retain with this technique is, no matter how weird your geo is, no matter how intricate the geo is, this will always work. So if I now have a geo that is something like this, it will still work. It will still map things correctly. So you can fake this as definitely fake reflections, no matter how intricate and difficult and weird your geo is. Okay, in this case, I have this weird thing, and we are converting still things with the same type of expression from normals to SD map. One thing also that I want to point out is, this seems a bit too complicated, this expression here, but because there's so much polarity in these formulas, maybe we can simplify this a bit. So we're going to say red minus -1 is the same thing as putting +1. Minus and minus will turn plus, right? And then the division will be 1 minus -1 is going to be 1 plus 1. Again, minus minus turns plus. So 1 plus 1 is going to be 2. So this can be simplified like this, and then you're going to do the same on the other one, like that. So this is a more simplified way of achieving the same thing, as long as you understand to use one or another. One thing also related with normals, it's another property called refraction. But instead of using the normals as a base so we can convert into something else, the refractions, the fake refractions, again, it's important to underline that this is fake refractions, it's something that we can use a bit more directly. So we're going to use the normals like this, and we're going to copy just 2 channels. We use an ID store, so we're going to just copy red and green. We're going to put this on any channel that's called forward. And now the ID store will take those channels, those vectors, forward. That's the one that we've assigned. And now you're going to start scaling this like that. And you'll see that the more you go up, you're going to see that this will look like fake refraction. Okay? You're distorting those channels like that. You can change the channels if you want. You can say instead of red and green, you can put blue. We'll see what this gives us. It will give you something different. Because red and green is going to give you the horizontal and vertical directions. Maybe that will be enough, but you can choose whatever channels you want. Let's not forget that what you have to do now is to use the alpha channel, so you cut just the part that you are interested in, so you don't have problems with distorting the actual background or the map itself. So you'll have just this, and then you put this on the background. And you can take a step forward, which is you can, again, you tick this one off, but you can force the normals to take any other values like this. So if you play with these things up and down, you're going to force the values to become something else, which can be even stronger, and you can achieve different things, different looks. For example, if you go up with the black point, you'll see that now the mapping is slightly different. In the same way you do this with this guy, it will be something different as well. It will give you more a different kind of refraction value. The method again will work no matter how intricate your geo is. It will always work in this way, and it will always, if you want to go up and down with this, you will see that the distortion will behave as expected in terms of the background you have. So you can go up and down. You'll see that the refraction will be something that will take the background, the new background, in consideration. So you're not going to have always the same. And you can rotate this around as well, and you'll see that this will also give you the same kind of behavior. This is a great way of achieving fake refraction, and I've used this many times actually. All you need for all of these techniques is just normals, and maybe this will serve as a base for you to achieve other things that you might think of. It's important to understand the concept of normals. The same goes for any other type of vectorial space, because this will open up your mind greatly to achieve many different things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to, because you don't understand the concepts, even though you use those passes or those vectorial spaces to do the normal work that you do. But as you can see, if you take a step forward, things will be opening up for you to achieve much better and greater things. Hello again, hope you liked it. So as I said, this was the second part of that first thing, that first part that I did a few weeks ago on normals. Even though this is the second part, this is not necessarily the last one. Okay, there's so many more things that we can do with it. We'll see if there will be a part 3. Well, there will, I guess, but I'm not saying that it's going to be necessarily the next one. We'll see when that happens. And it's time now for our guest as usual. And I've been saying here sometimes, well, more than sometimes actually lately, I've been very fortunate, well, the show and everyone involved in the show, you included of course, we've been very fortunate to have people that, you know, are names that everybody knows. And today it's one of those cases again. I'm not sure if everyone knows this person, of course, but it's someone that probably a lot of people know his name. So I'm not going to give you any more tip, all right? And I'm not going to tease you anymore. I'm going to call him. I already gave away that I said I'm going to call him. So it's not a woman, unfortunately. I'm trying to bring more. I want to bring as much diversity as possible, but it seems like every time that I ask someone from the female side of things, they're a bit shy, which is a shame. We'll see if that changes in the future. But anyway, let's call our guest and let's have the usual good conversation with him in this case. All right, see you in 2 seconds. Mr. Josh Parks, how you doing, man?
Yo, I was just listening to it. I could be a woman with a beard. Who knows?
You can, of course. Well, me too. Me too.
It's great to be on. Thank you so much for
No, man.
having me,
Thank you
man.
for.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for coming in and to make your time available to all of us.
Oh, no problem. If I'm honest with you, it's just nice to kind of have an excuse to have a shower and look presentable. So it's no problem at all. No problem at all.
Man. Cool. By the way, just for people, we're going to talk about you, of course, much more. But just to let everyone know that Josh actually got in touch with me it was well, about a month ago or even more, right?
Yeah.
Congratulating the show because you came across with the show, so that's always a good thing. And you were very kind to say, listen, if you want more guests, I'm available if you want to. And the truth is, I was already planning on inviting you, and I told you this. Also because I've mentioned your newsletter that we're going to talk about in a second. At least a couple of times here in this show.
I got the heads up on it. That was why, because someone kind of reached out and said, hey, you're getting mentioned over here. And then I checked out your channel. It's nice to see someone sharing, like I just saw your normals thing. Like that stuff you're never going to find really online.
Not really.
So it's just great seeing people sharing more stuff, I think.
Yeah. That's my intention, especially during these times, you know. And well, listen, you've been doing the same with your newsletter, right?
Last 6 years, 5-6 years it's been going.
6 years. All right, let's get into that then. So a lot of people, as I said, a lot of people know you because of your newsletter, and but there might be people that don't know you at all, right? So do you want to present yourself a bit more in a complete way to everyone that is watching?
Definitely. And working for kind of 7-8 years. I'm now a senior comper at Important Looking Pirates in Sweden. I've been working there remotely for the kind of past 3-4 months. Started out in NPC film as a roto prep artist. Moved up into comp in a kind of year. I was lucky I got on their comp academy, which kind of slowly moves you into comp within a year. So I was there for 2 or 3 years. Then moved to double negative film. Where, who knows, we may have worked together. Then moved to ILM as well, worked on kind of Jurassic World 2, Ready Player One, Transformers last night. And then I kind of fancied a bit of a change. So I could see TV was taking off. So I then moved to a TV company called Blue Bolt because they worked on Peaky Blinders. I'm a big Peaky Blinders fan. I really wanted to work on that show. And then I've been kind of working at Important Looking Pirates. I then moved to NPC advertising because I just fancied trying out ads because I'd never done it. And I was there for kind of about a year, and now I'm working remotely for Important Looking Pirates, back on TV and a bit of film. So I've tried kind of everything.
A very complete picture.
It's trying everything out.
Yeah, so as I said, people know you, at least your name, and we already have someone here saying, hello, Josh. I watched one interview on the other channel, great artist. So people know you. And probably know you, well, there's many reasons why they know you, of course, but I think one of the most significant ways would be from your newsletter. So how that idea was born, do you want to tell us why you felt the need of, presenting, or had the idea to presenting something to everyone like that?
So basically 5-6 years ago in the industry, like no one was doing this. Like no one was doing this, and no one was doing newsletters. No one was doing anything. It was just, and I just finished uni. Well, I'd probably been in the industry for about a year, and I was listening to a podcast, and it was kind of this entrepreneur or a designer or something. And I always had another friend in the design industry, and newsletters were kind of just the standard thing there. And what was annoying me is I got into the film industry, and it was like, wow, I know all these techniques, and I'm being sent all these cool articles and stuff, and there's like this divide between what I learned at uni and what's in film, and it really annoyed me. It like really got on my nerves because it was like, okay, it's not hard to understand this, it's just there's like this knowledge divide. So given I learned about this newsletter kind of thing, I then just set it up. I emailed around. I think I posted on VFX Reddit and just I'm setting one up. And it used to be just an email, and now obviously it's become this kind of like bigger thing. But yeah, like no one was years ago. Like no one was. I think it's probably one of the first newsletters.
I would say that no one was doing either this type of stuff or this type of stuff that this show is or anything, because everybody you know, felt, at least that was my impression, say for example 5-10 years ago, everything was kind of a secret. Nobody wanted to give away much things because the competition was fierce, but it's even more fierce now. So it's something, again, it's in people's minds, and it has to do a lot of with ego. So if you let the ego go away for a minute, of course you cannot strip ourselves from our ego, but if you're willing to share, I think, you know, there's great things that come out of that situation. So this show is one of these examples. Your newsletter is one of these examples. So for everybody that is watching us, I mean, don't be afraid of sharing your knowledge, whether it's your own knowledge or knowledge of someone else via something like a newsletter like that. But speaking of newsletter, and we already had Ben as part of our Ben McEwen as a guest. Do you feel any type of competition, because you guys are the two main guys regarding this type of situation going on in the industry?
I mean, not so much. I mean, the thing is, I subscribe to his because I need to make sure mine doesn't share the same thing.
I was about to ask that, exactly, because you don't repeat yourselves. We've
never spoken about it, but I think we just kind of like keep an eye on each other's. I mean, what is always really funny is, so like his newsletter, it was like mine. I started out and I was going, all right, I'm going to make all the content. So I'm going to make a tutorial every month and do this. And then slowly I found out that I just didn't have the time to do it every month. Like I just didn't have the time to put together this like beautifully written tutorial. So, and then I started kind of sharing other people's. And it's so funny, like he had the same conclusion so obviously, because if you look at his first ones, he started like making all his own stuff. And then slowly he's got to kind of like just sharing. So I think, I mean, there's obviously like it's always quite interesting, and like I remember I did an interview and then he was like, oh crap, I was going to do that as well. So I guess there's like a bit of friendly competition, but at the same time you might as well just get as much knowledge from everywhere. So I think
and I would say especially because you're not repeating, it's you know, you're giving more power to everyone because it's double the content, right? Exactly. which is not something that it shouldn't be easy to do that, because there's only so much content you can put every 2 weeks, right? as part of new things. For example, here, of course, I'm sharing things via the Tech Corner, and now we have a new segment called Tech Challenge, which is, you know, something to have people involved in share also their knowledge that way, not only mine but other people's. And I also have something that I call the Technical Highlight, which is part of the intro, everyone. But I just have one of those, right? You guys, you present between 3 and 5 at least, right? Every 2 weeks. So
well, mine's every month. I kind of cheat a little bit.
You're every month. All right.
But yeah, I mean, if I'm honest with you, like it's been fun being able to kind of point people's eyes at what you think they should look at. Like I was teaching a student who'd graduated, and he was making these awesome tutorials. So it's nice. I enjoyed being able to kind of like allow people to kind of become visible that maybe wouldn't have been before. Because there's a lot of hidden blogs on the internet of this stuff. Of like, I've found like this Japanese guy who works at Weta. He had a blog going back to 2012 that I found, and he had to translate it from Japan to English. And it was like, holy shit, there's like it's like a gold mine of knowledge.
Cool. That's cool.
But it's exactly the same ethos as you, like just trying to share and help out.
Because a lot of these things also, especially when it comes to more technical stuff. And for example, I'm giving this away. I'm writing a huge article about color science. And color science, for example, it's something that a lot of people know by hearsay, which is not ideal at all. Well, it's not ideal in any situation, let alone something that is so scientific as color science. Well, and any technical knowledge. So, you know, if you just trust what is out there, I mean, you can be fooled in a lot of different ways, and it can be so confusing that it's causing more harm than good. So, you know, again, from my part, thank you for doing what you're doing and to share knowledge that way, and to basically strip down what's good and what is not good. right?
Yeah.
And that comes also with the experience to evaluate what's good and what's not good. It comes with the experience as well. And you mentioned, and we're talking about this newsletter, and you mentioned some of your students, but I want to get into that as well. But until very recently, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, you were a contributor to the 3D World magazine.
Yeah, I still do a little bit.
Is that
with
still
them.
going, or?
I think it is. It's still going. Actually, I think so I basically got in contact with them because they didn't cover any compositing, and that was about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. A whole area of
Spectrum,
the
yeah.
market. Yeah, like what's going on? Like you're doing all these amazing ZBrush sculpts and no one was covering comping. So I just sent them an email and just said, hey, do you want me to write you some comping? Again, it was the same frustration of like, why is no one sharing this knowledge? So yeah, I still do a little bit. Again, it's just time. And often used to have an hour commute, so I'd just write them on my phone as I was going into work. And now because I don't have that, it's...
No.
But I do a little bit.
So that's still going on. I think, because you just mentioned when you were introducing yourself that we might have worked at DNEG. I don't think so at DNEG, but we probably have worked together without knowing, of course, at MPC. Probably. I was there during the Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one.
Oh man, poor guy, dude. So was I. Yeah,
I know.
That was,
so you were. So there you go. So we worked together without knowing, because at the
trenches.
Yeah, at that time we're talking about 2 big floors of people working on it, just in compositing. So there was a lot of people, and of course we didn't know each other 100%. Same happens at DNEG, of course. Well, that tends to happen in every single big company because there's so many people, of course. But
the thing you have at DNEG is you have individual rooms, don't you?
You do.
Rather than the big open floor.
Yeah. So that helps. But that doesn't mean that you get to know every compositor in the floor, because probably they're in a different small room, and there's too many of those. But that's when I believe I came across with the fact that you were writing. I think it was a little bit after that, but it was around that time that I came across with the fact that you were writing for the 3D World magazine, and that's how I came to know basically your name. And then this was many years ago. So and here we are now after so many years.
Oh my God, it's like 5 years in the making.
More than that. It was more than 5 years. It was more than 5 years. Yeah. So cool. You just mentioned that you are now at Important Looking Pirates, right? And you worked with them before, right? But you worked them while you were inside the studio. At the moment, you're still in London, right?
Yeah, Sweden's a very cold place, man. I went
I can imagine. Well, I've been there. Yes, it's cold.
Yeah, January to March last year I was there. And I remember I was walking to the bus and my legs were stinging and I didn't know why. And I looked at my phone, it was like -15. And I was like, oh my God. So this time it's warmer because I'm in London. I'm working remotely. So I was there for 2.5 months before, working on Game of Thrones and Krypton and a few other TV shows. And then now being able to work remotely. It's been amazing working remotely from them.
I want to talk about that as well, because of course the industry is changing so much, and this was something. And well, I've been covering this topic a lot of times here on the show for obvious reasons, because that's the time that we're living. But if it wasn't for this situation, probably you've been in Sweden again if you wanted to work with them, right?
It's great because I love. They're an amazing company. Like if you guys ever get a chance to work for them. Yeah,
when I came across with their name in terms of what they were doing, probably around the time that they did things for Game of Thrones, I went to. I think this was a long time ago. I went to their website and I was like, man. Very good stuff in here, you know what I mean? And then of course, their name came back and back again, and they won a bunch of awards and being nominated for a lot of others. They just got nominated for 3 different ones, right?
Yeah, BAFTA. I think it's 3 BAFTAs for Watchmen and a few others. I can't remember now.
Yeah, so they do very very good work. In a place that it's not like a trendy place at all. We're talking about Sweden. They're probably one of the very few companies there doing or working to the level of what we do, for example, in places like London or other places, especially London, because we're both in London. So very, very, very interesting. So you're working now with them. remotely because we're living this situation at the moment. And are you the only one working, to your knowledge, doing this? They are not national, and if they're say for example you were a Swedish guy, would you be able to go to the office work, or everybody, regardless of what they are, they're working remotely and that's it?
Yes.
To your knowledge, without giving information away that you don't want, all right?
No. So over in Sweden, it's been very odd working for a Swedish company because they have never had a lockdown. Like it was like I was telling them how they like locked up the parks here and they were just going out for drinks and stuff. So you're kind of more aware of how each country's dealing with it. But they basically needed a ton of compositors to finish off a load of shows. So they have been recruiting load of remote compositors. So it's not just me. Like there were comps in Spain and all sorts, and just all around the world. I mean, the only downside for it has been they're an hour ahead. So generally they start at 9 o'clock their time, which is 8 o'clock our time. So it's literally like dailies in the morning when you get up for 8. You got to start dailies at 8 o'clock. It's a bit like, oh god.
Well, but I think that's a good thing. Exactly. That it's one of the advantages, of course, if you're not doing overtime too often. But at the same time, at least it works for me. I'm not sure if it works for you, but if I start working very early in the morning, my mind is so much fresher. I mean, I work so much better, so much better. So routine is important. And I said this, we just mentioned Ben's newsletter and Ben McEwen just a while ago, and I did an interview for his. Well, he interviewed me for his newsletter, and I'm in that interview. I think I mentioned exactly that. So believe it or not, the more, you know, if you don't cut corners in terms of I'm gonna arrive at the office in the times that we had that option, right? At 10 because I've worked so many hours extra on the previous day. Of course, you know, you have to rest, but at least for me it works if you show up on time every day, because your mind works better in the morning. There's less distractions in the morning. It's not as hot if you're working in a country during the summer, for example. So I think it helps. So it's a good thing that you're doing. At least for me, it would be a good thing if I would. Well, I'm saying this now, right?
Exactly. But anyway, it's definitely good. It is good. I don't know about you, but I'm generally better at like problem solving in the morning. So I like.
I'm better. You know. I'm gonna tell you something I also mentioned here before. I'm better at problem solving when I'm on the shower.
You've got like a setup in your shower.
I don't. It's just when I have time. Just when, for some reason, I'm not alone in this. For some reason,
I love it.
You know, I'm taking a shower.
Yeah.
Probably my mind is free from a lot of things that visually speaking, even. And you know, my brain computes better on that time. At least to try some things that probably I wouldn't be able to. Of course, I'm in the shower. I cannot try them while I'm in the shower. but you know.
That's a great point, though, because that's something I loved when I was at Ireland. Like, I loved working on at the bigger places because people know the software so well. You can problem solve without even touching the software, can't you?
Yeah.
It's so good. Like that is the most satisfying thing about really understanding like the core math, like the fundamentals. Because you can be on the bus and like you can just be working on a problem, and the next day you come in and you can fix it.
I mean, so many times that happened to me that it's impossible to count. A lot of times, whether it was on the tube, but again, on the tube you have too many distractions, visual distractions, and then you have to get out on this station, then you have to go in another one. You know what I mean? So you have this thing. If you are in a dark place, for example, and the shower can be a dark place if you want, you're having a relaxed time. That's why holidays are important.
You got this like whole routine of like you dim the lights, you have your shower, it's problem solving time.
A little bit. Sometimes, like a little bit like Dr. House. You remember that?
I like it.
At least it works for me. You know what I mean? It works for me. But everybody has their own ways. And sometimes I might have a conversation with a couple of friends or something, or I'm doing something else, and then something switches on, and I say, you know what? I have to stop what I'm doing at the moment. I have to write it down at least so I don't forget it. So a lot of times that happens as well. But we are, digressing a bit from the topic. No, it's my fault. So you pretty much, you're still in London, and you've made your career in London, pretty much, right? Even though you worked in Sweden, at least. correct me if I'm wrong, probably that was the only country CG-wise in which you work outside London. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you worked a little bit everywhere. You just mentioned, you know, different companies and different mediums even throughout your career. I also have my take on it, but and you just worked actually recently at NPC commercials, which is a different. It's a different medium. It can be a different, completely different game. And you worked actually with two friends of mine, probably.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Dom Andelson and Chris Hooland, two CG supervisors.
Yeah. I know Dom really well.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. Yeah, he's like one of the nicest 3D guys I've ever met. It's amazing. You just ask him for stuff and he'd be like, yeah, no problem, I'll kick that out for you. It's like, wow, this is good.
We worked together, we two as both supervisors. He's on the CG side. He was on the CG side, of course, and I was on the compositing side. Back at Milk a few years ago. And then he moved out, and I moved out also, even before him. But yeah, I think he's still there, right? It's been a while.
Yeah, he's been there a long time.
Yeah. He might be a guest on the show one of these days. Who knows?
He'd be, honestly, man, he'd be absolutely great because he's got such a good mentality. Me and him were on a project together and we were sat next to each other and we had to look dev something. And between us, we were just like, okay, can you do that in comp? Can you do that in CG?
Yeah. It's that interchanging of, so we'll see if I can bring him in. He's been really busy as far as I know. And Chris Hooland might be a guest on the show as well. We'll see if I can bring her one of these days. Anyway, so you worked on that medium, which can be a very different thing, and probably was your first time you did commercials.
Yeah, it was a bit eye-opening when I first got there.
Because that's exactly what I want to talk to you about. So, you know, because you worked on all of these different mediums, probably you have a preference at this point, right?
No, I don't think I do, actually.
You don't? Okay.
No, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do it, because, so, I think you probably noticed, like, in film, everyone kind of generally stays in film, and then everyone moans about film. They're like, oh, got it. Like, sometimes you get to this point where I think people don't end up knowing what the other options are, right? Yeah. Because you've only ever stayed in film. And the problem is, you could just move to like TV or ads, and maybe those problems aren't in those. But for me, I don't have what I want to work on, right? Like, hey, I fancy doing some ads. I fancy doing some TV. And for me personally, I think that's the best way, and I can steal all the best ideas and everything. And I didn't want to get to a point in my career where I never know what the other options are. Like, how can you say that you love working in one field if you've only ever worked in that field, right?
Correct.
So that was always I always remember, actually, as a junior artist at NPC, I met a freelancer who was like, he makes his money in ads, and then he goes works on a blockbuster film for free
just because he wants,
every year. Yeah, every year he just works on a 3-4 month film on the crunch time, so it's a bit mental, but he gets some cool shots for his reel. It's really fun. He takes a few months off, and then he works in ads. I was like, little life you got there. So I don't know. How do you feel about it? Would you ever you were at Milk, so you must have done TV.
Yeah, I did TV for a while. Well, I worked on the 3 mediums. I worked in film, which is my preferred medium. I worked in TV, which I also like very, very much. Yeah. Sometimes, depending on the project, I might even like more TV for the reasons that I'm gonna lay out in a second. And I worked in commercials as well for a very brief period of time. Similar like you, probably. Well, my take on it was even smaller. My time that I spent there was even smaller. But I would say it's important that everybody would try it, the different mediums, and then you decide. It's as simple as that. They're very different paces, all of them very different paces, very different quality controls. Situation depending also on the type of company that we're talking about. We're talking about different mediums and different companies as well. So you have to mix all of these variables, and you know, the things that I'm saying depending on they are dependent on these variables as well. But you have all these differences. I would say that commercials, it's probably my least favorite medium. For reasons that it's personal taste. I would say so. But I would say that film definitely my preferred medium because the quality output is always there, no matter how painful that might be, no matter how, you know,
how much hacking you have to do in comp.
Yes, no matter, especially the time, the waiting time, because in the beginning of a film project, for many reasons, and this is probably something, well, we all know this, you know, but more junior artists, and we just got a message from one of them, might not know the situation, but in the film production, in the beginning of the film production, if you are from the beginning of that production, a lot of times it's more about tryouts and, you know, waiting for things to come your way, and that can take a long time, and then everything gets compressed until the end, and there's no time to do anything. So it all works out in the end, but it can be a little bit frustrating that you're doing, you know, 1 second shot for like more than 100 versions.
Yes.
And that's because in the beginning there's a luxury of time. By the end there's not. So you have to the things change a little bit at the end. So that part can be annoying for some people, but the quality output is always there, and that's why I like it. It's my preferred medium. TV,
definitely.
it's a mix between, you know, it's a more well, nowadays the quality threshold is in some situation is close or even better, better sometimes.
It is basically film, yeah.
It's basically film, but the schedule is a bit more, the pace of it is a bit more, you know, it's a bit faster, so can work better for other people. At the same time, at least in my experience, I developed a lot of you know, technical knowledge because I worked in TV for the time that I did. So because you have to improvise so much, the time is not there, the time is not your friend. You don't have the luxury sometimes to wait things to be developed in the right department, because the time, you know, it's not there. So you have to do a lot of fixing in comp, good fixing, hopefully. Some of them might not be as good because the time is not there as well. The solution might be the perfect one, as long, you know, but if you don't have time to develop that solution to the very, you know, quality threshold that you want, and a lot of times that happens, it can be a bit frustrating as well. So there's always good and bad, and in commercials, I forgot to mention, it's like very fast.
Yeah,
it's mental. A lot of hours that you have to put in to compensate for that. You have the feedback sometimes being thrown at you while you're doing the comp, so you might have the clients like right next to you saying, do this, do that, I don't want this, I don't want that. It depends on the meeting, the type of company as well, but can be a bit like that. And because of all these differences, some people might prefer one than another, you know what I mean? So it's again, it's personal taste. But I think, especially for you younger artists, I think it's important that people try a little bit of everything.
Definitely.
Right? Yeah, so that will be, for me, the main differences. Would you agree with these differences as well?
Yeah, I think.
Is that like your take on it as well?
Ads was eye-opening because it's like I walked in one day and it was like, we need a confetti particle sim and we don't have enough money to do it in effects. And it was like, okay, like I've never had to do that, but okay, let's try and do it in Nuke. And that's actually on my website if you want to look. But it was one of those things where I was using a tool I knew, but I'd never used it in this way to do stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because you're being asked to do stuff. It's like, I've never been asked to do this with Nuke before. So that was my big eye opener in ads. It's just that. And then TV for me is so similar to film. Actually, the other thing I struggle with in ads is, because I'd come from film and TV, is I didn't know what to let go. That was my biggest issue. It was like, what do we care about in tech check here? Like, do we care about grain matching it exactly, or do we care about this little edge here on the key because we can blur it a little and cheat it? Like, that was I didn't know what to let go, basically, because my eye was so used to just fixing everything. The standard film is make everything look good. It should match the plate.
As perfect as possible, yeah.
Exactly. Whereas in ads, there's like this gray area where, yes, you want it to look good, but you haven't got time to get it to look 100% in the tech check. So what is the prior? And I struggle with that a fair bit.
In commercials, yeah, I felt the same. I felt the same, and again, that's why I'm saying the quality threshold, because I've been, you know, I'm used to work in that medium just referred, whether it's film or TV. You go to commercials, and you know, it's a completely different mindset. You know what I mean? And you're like, what are we delivering this way? No, I can't live with this. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, because there's no time, you have to work so much and so many hours to compensate for the fact that there's not much time, and the quality threshold, it's very different from what you are used to, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, things look good still.
NBC Ads has got a very good CG department though. I didn't do that many late nights at NBC Ads. I did more in film, if I'm honest with you.
Really cool. Good for you.
Yeah. Their CG department is very good at NBC Ads. Very good.
And as I said, I don't want to generalize this because, you know, these things cannot be generalized. But, you know, smaller companies, of course, will not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially working for commercials, I mean, it's very different, even though the medium might be the same compared to, for example, NPC commercials. You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely.
And especially if you're coming from either TV or film, especially if you're coming from film, you'll notice a massive, you know, mentality change that you have to basically, you know, make for yourself.
But one thing I find interesting at the moment, and you might I'd be interested in your take on this, is before film used to be the thing where they'd push the boundaries of what's possible. But now you're kind of seeing that more in TV and ads, where you're seeing kind of games engines being used more, like The Mandalorian, right? That was all kind of done in TV, and then you've got advertising that are kind of moving more towards games engines and working what they could do. And you've got a guy, NPC Ads New York, who's using machine learning, and I'm trying to use that now to kind of speed stuff up.
Yeah.
So I think because there's more constraints in this industry, and you can't just throw more time and money at it, it's quite. What I find interesting is there's more innovation going on in that side of things than film, because in film they're just like doing it the same way that they've always done it, right?
Well,
because they can.
Yes, I think you're right, but I think eventually every medium will come to like a
head,
like a common thing in terms of what the technology that they are using. Of course, they can push the boundaries a bit more here and there, but the technology that they're going to be using are going to be the same, because, you know, the technology is there, can help you save some time, and of course, time equals money. So, you know, if any of these mediums can save some money, of course, they will all welcome this situation. At the time, or at the present time, of course, TV budgets are, normally speaking, 90% of the time, are incomparable. They're so much bigger than, for example, TV in some situations, not all of the situations. So they can afford to spend more time doing things a little bit differently. But for example, now that we have these LED kind of screens to integrate things in real time with real real rendering game engines running on the background, I think this is something that is going to be welcomed by any medium. You know what I mean? Because it's going to save them so much time, if the budget allows them to buy things like that, or to hire, or to how do you say, you can hire things like that. You can hire people that have that kind of equipment without buying them, necessarily speaking. But it's something that it's going to be used by every medium, I would say. But the luxury of time and money makes these different medias adopting in certain situations this take or that take. That's my take on it. But eventually they will all be using the same things, because, you know, again,
they pick the best thing. It doesn't matter. Like, there's no. It's whatever saves us the most money and looks the best.
Yeah, but without a doubt, that TV these days, and I've watched, you know, in firsthand, the change between what TV used to be and what TV is now, and I mean, the change was so fast, and now everybody wants a piece of that pie. Because
that's where the money is.
Exactly, that's where money is. Now, especially during the pandemic, there are probably the few productions surviving during this situation, because you know, there's so much more productions doing that. They're not dependent on showing that to a cinema, because, you know, they can show this in every people's homes. So.
And there's 10 episodes as well.
Exactly.
That's the thing as well. So it's like 10. So you've got a ton of work there to be getting on with.
Yeah. And so probably because of that, they're pushing the boundaries and trying things, because the technology allows them to do, and because it's something that is growing so much in so little time, the budgets also are increasing. So they can afford now to spend more money in productions, because the productions are being thrown more money at these projects to be developed, so they can try and push the boundaries in different ways. Whereas in film, it's a more traditional kind of medium. Things have to be done in a certain way, not all the time, but it's a bit more conservative in that kind of sense, I would say, at least for the majority of the productions.
Well, it's a bigger risk, isn't it, as well? Like it's a bigger investment. So if
Yeah.
you just got to kind of make sure it works, you can't.
Yeah.
You can take a risk on something that you've only got a month to do, because the worst case scenario, you've lost a month of your life.
Yeah.
In film, it's 5 years, 6 years, and all this money, and it's you can take less risk because there's so much into it.
But there are things that, for example, we just mentioned the LED backgrounds with the game engines running, but there are things that have been being developed over the years and now being adopted almost in every single medium. And this is a question for you also that I have. For example, things like, and I just mentioned color science, things like ACES, which is a complete game changer, I would say, in color management, not only color space itself, but the color management, the overall system. It's being adopted, or it's I would say, for the majority of productions, whether it's film or TV. There are some productions, of course, that are not adopting this, but this helps everyone, and it's not dependent on any specific medium, because you can output this to any medium and still have like this huge color space that can work for any medium from the moment you capture a picture, without being tied up on a certain kind of workflow for a specific medium. So how is that working to your experience in commercials? Are they adopting this as well?
They just did it.
They just did it. Yeah.
When I was there, I was kind of, because they weren't used to working with it, so I was kind of helping them a little bit because I had some experience from the film side. And it was so interesting actually, because before NPC ads, I didn't really have much of I kind of knew a bit about color space, but you don't need to know in film, do you? Because it's just happening and it all works.
No, but it helps so much if you know color science a bit.
Exactly.
It helps tremendously.
It does. Well, and you can problem solve. That was the thing. I felt like I kind of didn't ever, I hadn't ever been in a situation where I had to kind of problem solve that. And it was great, like being there, because it meant I had to suddenly learn all this stuff. And it was like, oh crap, actually, okay, how do we do this properly? And we need to convert all our textures now and everything to this thing. It's kind of, but yeah, they moved to it. It was fine. Some of the VFX groups weren't sure at first, because they're kind of more old school guys that used to working in their way, like
traditional.
What they were used to. Yeah, and colorists as well found it a little like, oh wow, okay, we're working in this different color space. How should we kind of act, and how should we do our grading? But it's, people move over, they always forget that it affects everything, like texture, like every single thing that you're going to be using.
But at the same time, it conforms everything, whether you're using camera A, B, or C, whether you're projecting this on a cinema, whether you're using this on, for being shown at the TV or at your place or your monitor, whatever. It doesn't matter, because it all
on HDR, none of the work's being checked on HDR monitors, right?
Yeah. So
what happens when those come in? And
exactly. So that was one of the challenges. So things like this, and again, this was motivated by the Academy, which is traditionally linked to film, of course, right? And this is, I just mentioned this point because of the conversation that we were having, like which medium is pushing more the boundaries. It depends. And this is a situation in which, yes, it was motivated by the Academy, which is normally associated traditionally with movies, with cinema, but the world now changed, so the cinema is now in the same realm of things as TV, pretty much, right? And that's why I was asking you if they are adopting this situation in the commercials, which is still very different from both film and TV, and episodic kind of situations. So apparently they are, which is great. By the way, let's see if we have, because we are so engaged in this conversation, at least I am, that we are forgetting to know if people are, if they have any questions. There's a lot of things here. Great to see this crossover. Yeah, cool. Chris Fryer. Hey Chris, how you doing, man? It's been a while.
I used to teach him.
What? Is that right?
Yeah.
You worked with me on my team at DNAG recently. Good to see you here, Chris. There was a question here, because I've seen, well, it's not here anymore, but there was someone who asked if companies are hiring junior artists internationally. I would say that this is definitely not the right time for that, and I'm being completely honest. We're gonna hear what Josh has to say about that in his opinion, but definitely not the best time. But that doesn't mean that cannot happen. I'm just saying that it's definitely not the best time because there's not much work going on, and the work that of course has to be done probably have to be done, either it's finishing a production, which we need more experienced artists, or there's no much work going on, so not the best of times, I would say, for that. But again, keep trying, keep pushing yourself, and the more you show you can do, because junior or mid or senior is just a label, right? It's more about what you can show that you can do, right?
I've seen a lot of seniors and mids who are not, they're relying on the knowledge they learned in the first year of their career, and it's like, you're not a senior. It's just, the amount of years you've been in the industry does not mean you're a senior and mid, and that's the most annoying thing.
No. So that's just a label that can mean many different things, and in reality can mean many different levels of knowledge. And experience, because there's one thing is the knowledge, and the other one is experience. Experience can be good or bad experience. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean knowledge necessarily speaking. But let's hear your take on it if you wanna add something to that.
For junior compers now. Yeah, I think if I'm honest with you, yes, there's less work, but there's still a fair bit of work around. I think the problem is for junior compers is companies are less likely, they just want a safe pair of hands to carry their show across the finish line.
Exactly.
That's all they want. So yes, junior comps are going to be tough right now, because also you can't ask, I think I saw this on one of the other ones, like they can't ask questions because you're not sat next to them. And it's a tough time to be a junior comper right now. Like you said at the start, I think is like, honestly, I would just be learning as much as I can. And then when you take off, you're good to go. I would be making actions, I'd be learning, I'd be like setting up the foundation so that as soon as stuff takes off, you're like going straight in.
My words exactly. Not my words, because you were the one saying that, but it's my take on it completely. And I just mentioned something very similar just a while ago. So yeah, don't be disencouraged by the fact that this is not the best time. Keep pushing yourself, the maximum as you can, read as much as you can, practice as much as you can, because this will be over at some point. This will not be like this forever. And the more you're prepared, of course, the best your position will be to be a hireable person. Right? So
is it the more you sweat in peacetime, the less you bleed in war, I think is the quote.
Wow.
So yeah, now's the time to be sweating, basically.
Exactly. Let's see if there's any more questions. So it's okay to ask how remote working for the big studios are done. Like, is it done via TeamViewer and you control the office machines or something? So the way that it's done, well, every company does it differently, but there's normally a VPN set up for artists, and you basically are logged in a remote machine, and you're working as if you were in that machine, although you're not physically there, but your machine that you're logged in is something that is remote. So you have all the softwares there, you have all of that. In terms of feedback and dailies and all that stuff, that's done via tools like Zoom or anything else. So things like RV will be running on the background. The VFX supervisor will be commenting on the shots, similarly to what you would have in a daily session, except you're using a different tool, which is Zoom or something else. So that's my take. Do you want to add something to that, Josh?
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's been pretty smooth in a weird way.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is surprising everyone, including the clients and including the studios probably. Because this can mean a lot of money saved.
The only thing is it's going to be, because I was talking to the head of 2D at IRB, and he was a few other people in the industry, and they were kind of like, we're just not sure if clients are going to let us keep doing this. Like, that's going to be the thing. Like, it's just going to be this kind of intellectual property, right, on someone's screen, and it's not being secured.
But I think, again, we'll see what happens. Nobody can predict, but we'll see what happens. But I would say that, I mean, this is proved to be a false narrative, in the sense that the danger on the intellectual property being damaged in any way or abused in any way, it's in the exact same way as you can have in an office. There's
That's
no
true.
one.
Definitely.
There's no one. Forbidden. Well, it's forbidden, but there's no one actively there with every single person checking whether or not you have your phone and you can take a picture of what you're doing. So.
Yeah. I have heard that they might make you have your webcam on though while you're working and stuff, so that they can check that no one's like coming into the room, which would be interesting if they start enforcing that.
I think. I think that will weigh a lot on the internet connections and you know what I mean. But just adding a little bit to that, sometimes there's problems, especially when you're doing quality control and all that stuff, whether you're an artist or a supervisor. There's problems with compression during, because of this transmission thing going on, bandwidth problems and all that stuff. But different companies are adopting different ways of achieving that. So you might have for your day-to-day job, you might have a connection that is not as good visually speaking, but it runs faster because that's what you need to do. And then you can add different profiles for different stages of production, so you can check things a little bit more properly. So different companies again do things a little bit differently from each other, but that's basically the gist of what people are doing at the moment. Hope I replied in a way that you liked. Was this person Dondi? Hope I answer your question. Any other questions?
There's Igor. So actually, you know what? There's one that I would like to talk about, which is when can we all leave London and start working remotely on a beach? I think honestly, and he's just bought a house in Wales, and it's like really cheap, and he's on a London salary, and he's going to set up a studio, and it's like it's one of those times as well where I've had some emails before from people, and they're fed up of being kind of like these nomads who do 3 months in this country and 3 months in this country.
Yeah. Listen, it's already happening. It's already happening because companies, and I'm not sharing something that I have like privileged information or anything like that. It's the same information that everybody has. But some companies, and I'm talking about like big companies, are already hiring internationally.
Scanline are doing it now.
Scanline, Rise, at a certain extent as well. Rise, I'm not sure, but Trixer for sure. So, and by the way, I'm mentioning two, this is probably not by chance, mentioning two German companies. So it seems like the industry is shifting a bit, but it seems like Europe might be about to change in terms of what's the hotspots at the moment. We'll see.
Australia
as well.
That's where you want to be.
Yeah. Well, I just came from there I've been there a couple of times actually. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see. The problem with places like Australia though is the fact that you don't have many companies. So that can be a problem. Same goes for New Zealand with Weta, for example.
But ILM's just started in Australia, right? Like more I mean, Mill Films closed, I think, but.
Yeah, so one open, the other one closes, which comes to the same number of studios basically, which they're not a lot, you know what I mean? Which is one, a couple, I would say 2 or 3, but anyway. So time for now for our tech corner. We already went over 1 hour, so we have to do the tech corner because that's what people normally ask for, and I think the bot is already mentioned. I already mentioned that as well. Are you happy for us to do that?
Wait, is this the one where you asked me a bunch of questions?
Yeah.
Perfect. Maybe I need to get in the shower to do this so I can keep myself to back.
You can. Yeah, I can wait 5 minutes if you want.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's do it.
All right, cool. Let's do the node fight now. Let's do it now. Okay, so the clock is ticking. All right. Cool. So you know basically what's expected, yeah? You've seen this before, yeah? All right. So let's start. This is completely random, okay? So lightning bolts.
Oh, there's on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Correct. Okay. Cool. Edge treatment. your favorite edge treatment, or the edge treatment that comes to your mind?
Edge extends. Do not do edge extends. They screw up your grain. They're a nightmare. Don't do edge extends. Invert your alpha and grade the edge to match and you can luma key your background and mask it so you're grading areas differently to set it into your background. Don't do edge extends. They're a nightmare.
Cool. Additive keying.
Additive keying. Make a clean plate and do the additive. I mean, I've got loads of different additive. I personally prefer like a multiply divide additive keying technique, where you get the clean plate and then you de-spill it, and then you do some bit of math, and then you multiply the background over the foreground, and that does your job. Sorry, that's a bit of a crappy answer, but
no, that was perfect.
Okay.
Fake reflections.
Either get a card in the place of where the window is, and then try and project your plate that you want in the reflections in the correct 3D space, like a ray render node, and then plug your reflection material into the card. I've done that quite a lot, and you can also get shadows out of that as well. And then you can also have them coming out into passes that you can then plus over and things. That's kind of the advanced way. If you want to hack it, just transform and move it onto where you want, and then plus it and move it down a little bit, and then mix or something.
Perfect. Dry to wet look.
What's the next one?
Dry to wet look.
Dry to wet. Oh my god, just kick it back to CG and tell them to do their job.
That's not a valid answer, come on.
Okay, position ref pass, run noise through it, and then try and adjust the specs in those areas. And then maybe you could do edge detects on the edge of that noise, so you get like nice little rim light on certain areas.
Okay.
Yeah, or screw around with the spec pass and stuff, or like the coat pass is generally a good one, with running noise through it.
Cool. Let's do one more. I wanna choose a good one.
Just to give you one chance. How do you solve
the last one has to be like the best one.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. There's no best ones. Let's say deflickering.
Deflickering, curve tool, obviously, man. Come on, use the curve tool. Yeah, okay, so you curve tool, get your little. Now, there used to be a bug in the curve tool, so put a crop node in first, put it on an area that's kind of the same color throughout the whole shot. Obviously, it's going to flicker, but it's going to be kind of a constant flat area. Crop tool in, reformat, because then it's going to make your curve tool way quicker, and there used to be a bug that ruined it. And then put a curve tool underneath, select the region, and then hit go, and then it's going to analyze it. Go to max luma data or one of those things at the top, expression link it to a grade model. Do a little expression in there where you divide and then copy it, and then do brackets in the frame you want as your reference frame, and then hit reverse, and then it will undo the flickering. And then if you want something to flicker the same as it, you just untick reverse and copy it underneath.
Cool. Yeah, man. You did well. You were prepared for this, because you were very fast to answer.
Well, I've been until 1 in the morning this week, so that's why we did this early. So it's.
Cool, man. Thank you for playing along. It was great. I just wanted to add something that
my day wrap up as well. So I'll just send people this in my show. That'd be great.
I just wanted to add something that you mentioned about edge treatment, like edge extent and all that stuff. Yes, avoid it if you can. But if you can't avoid it, in order for you to not destroy the grain, do it in ungrade version.
Yeah, but the problem is it's not as simple as that, man, because you end up, okay, so this t-shirt like this, here, what's going to happen is this purple bit's going to go here, and yeah, it gets you like 80% of the way there really quick. All your time with my hair, these face or something. Do you not find
there's a very easy way to overcome that problem. And I'll probably do a tech corner on this subject one of these days. But if you basically apply a dispill on the grain only, that problem will go away.
Yeah, it's purple, and it's going to end up here.
Yeah.
So then this skin here is going to go.
It depends on the type of edge extent method that you're using. If you're using like a blur, like a traditional blur one, yes, you're going to have that. But edge extent, of course, you'll have to. Probably, if there's a very complex situation, you have to apply different edge extent methods methods to different parts of your image. So that's why you should always avoid that, and you can get you can avoid that if you have like a good dispill and a good alpha.
Yes, and just braid the edges.
On top of other things as well. But
Yeah, exactly.
I might do a tech corner on this subject one of these days. That's a good idea, actually. Well, listen, thank you once again, Josh, for playing along and for coming in. Let's see if there's any more questions. I don't think there is. No, not that No, there's one question, actually. No. We already answered that question, which is like the remote thing. How's that working for big production, big companies? So we already covered that. So I think that's it for us, man. Thank you once again.
It was a pleasure,
And we'll see if we can meet in person when this whole thing goes away. We'll see if we can meet in person, and maybe let's bring Dom with us as well. Why not? It's been a while last time I was with him, so let's bring
the pub version or something.
Yeah, why not? One more question, last question. All right, what's Josh's views on Netflix, NetFX?
Is NetFX Netflix? Well, I don't know what NetFX.
I'm assuming it is.
But they online and have artists can kind of remotely work for things. I don't know. Have you seen that?
Not entirely sure if I did. I think I did, but I'm not sure if I'm confusing that with something else.
Yeah. Okay, so what he's talking about is the new Netflix. I think what they might do is they might put a shot up, and then people bid on shot.
What? No, I haven't. No, I read something that they were about to do something like that, but I'm not entirely sure exactly what they meant. Apparently, you have more information than I do. So we'll see. Yeah. I'll try to investigate this a bit better.
Do it. Let's have a look. But yeah, it's I think the NetFX things. I mean, that's the company that's going to be more. They're not like the Hollywood guys that have been around for ages. I see them doing something where they just have senior comp shots for a show.
Might happen. Might be a way to face the future. In our industry, who knows? Anyway, we would have to have like a couple of more hours to discuss all of these things again. Listen,
trilogy.
Once again, Thank you so much for coming in, Josh. Please stay on so we can have a quick chat afterwards. For everybody who was watching, thank you once again. We're gonna have, of course, a new episode next week. I'll be announcing it soon, like the proper date and hour. Until then, please stay safe and enjoy the weather if you can. All right? Okay. Bye-bye, guys. See you.